Hey, folks.
Hey, folks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today or watching our new show, GAGE. It's all about meaningful innovation, leadership, and living. And now we have Ryan Cox with us. He's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for 13 years and
13.
13. Yeah. And then you know what? I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Ryan, because, it's all about accountability and leadership. And I just want you to explain what it is that you do at coxcoaching.co.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. So, my name is Ryan Cox. I'm the founder of Cox Coaching. It's an accountability, growth, and leadership coaching company. The idea is that there are a lot of amazing people that are under optimized in what they're doing. Maybe they have a personal brand that they want to expand. Maybe there's additional revenue streams that they want to have for their business. Maybe they're in a business, but they have a really big project that they just need some help on the lift side of. And I realized that I had a lot of superpowers that filled those gaps for people, and they wanted access to it and they wanted help and support in those areas. So it was February of last year that I launched my business, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
That's amazing. I mean, I wonder. So often there's a lot of this vernacular around, like, there's a lot of coaches kind of entering the sphere. I think there's a lot about the movement around leadership being reinvented or looked at in a new lens, in a more healthy lens, right? And so
Right.
there's so many questions because, I mean, obviously it's a theme for Gage, and one of them being, how does one know or identify or come to knowing one's superpowers?
A, a business application for it would be, what more often than not, what are people in your DMs asking you about? Where are they asking for help? Where are they wanting your feedback on? Where are they sharing articles because they're like, hey, you might like this? What are the things on social media that gets the most engagement or conversation from other people? And then the inward way of finding it would be, what do you like to do? What is something that you just do that other people seem to be amazed at, and for you it feels like, well, it's just another Tuesday? Those would be three different ways that you could identify something that might be a superpower of yours. But it's just finding those core competencies that you excel at and other people want more of.
Thank you for sharing. I know that it took me a little while to kind of figure it out too. And then sometimes you get into this like strange imposter syndrome where you're like, well, but why would anybody pay me for this? And then you realize later, like, people are actually getting paid to do this. And so it's really interesting, and which leads me to ask you, what inspired you to follow this path? I mean, can you give a little bit of background as to what you were doing before Cox Coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to attach on to something that you just said, though, because I want to bring light to it. Like, women, women of color, people of color, or men of color don't have the same pathway that I have. So the reason that I'm tacking on to this imposter syndrome is you've been conditioned throughout your lifetime that there are things that you can't have or you won't have or will be harder for you to get. Like, whether that's internal conditioning, external conditioning from media or the internet or your community, you've been conditioned differently than I have. I'm a white man in America. That's the 1% of the 1%, meaning I've been conditioned that I can have whatever I want, be whatever I want, do whatever I want, get whatever I want. That's been my conditioning all of my life. So it makes sense that I would be more apt to just go after something than a Black or brown woman, because I've seen it all of my life working, or I've been told all of my life that it could. So I just wanted to say that because you immediately spoke about imposter syndrome, and that's a very real thing for women, especially comparative to men, or even more specific, women of color. So I just wanted to say that because it's so interesting to me when, like, when people get to know, like, holy hell, these are all the things that Tina has done in her career, that would be the person you think has the least imposter syndrome out of anyone. But because of
Nope.
outward conditioning, it still is very much rampant, or not, maybe not rampant, but it still very much can rear its ugly head sometimes.
I
So,
think yeah, I think you're a little bit right. I mean, there is a little bit of social conditioning, like don't speak up unless you're spoken to, or
right.
or with females, it's interesting. This does bring me to a point, and I discussed it with you before, but to share it a little bit is I remember practicing pitching for an accelerator. And at some point, Adam Draper, God bless his soul, thank you, Adam, he was like, why can't you talk about yourself? And then it took me a little while when I finally went to, I guess it was a speech coach. I was like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this well. And he said, the thing is, there's a thing that most women don't understand is we actually we're conditioned not to talk about ourselves, right?
Mhm.
It's actually difficult. Like even amongst friends, female friends, usually you get, I mean, if you know each other great, you can maybe talk about yourself a little bit more, but we don't sit around the table. It's not a culture of I'm going to brag about how awesome I am all the time. Whereas when men sit and talk about each other, it's either you're making fun of each other or you're bragging a little
Yep.
bit, right?
Yep.
And it's interesting. It wasn't until he brought it up that I was like, wait a minute, he might be right. Women actually have a really hard time talking about themselves and their accomplishments in particular. We're not, it was more like, what are you going to do for other people? What problem can you solve? Someone needs you. Let's go fix that. And it was really fascinating to get that feedback.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's one of those things that realizing it, having someone communicate it to you, and then being able to deconstruct that, to unlearn that habit, and for lack of a better term, get what you deserve is a big thing.
I mean, it's hard. Well, and then it's interesting. It's like, what is that line between being an obnoxious, like egomaniac who's like, I'm the best at everything, and then being somewhat humble, but able to talk about your strengths with some confidence, right? And not be, I guess, for lack of a better term, a martyr, or
right.
kind of, or sometimes I've done this often, sometimes in meetings, people are astonished. They'll be like, oh, go around the room, introduce yourself. And I'm like, I am Tina. Can we move on to the next person? And then you're like, what? Like, well, actually, that brings me to a point. So, Ryan, do you have a short list of topics that you would recommend for somebody in that hot seat and be like, hey, Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself? What should come to mind as a question?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing would be recent wins. Like, is there a professional win inside the company, an article you were featured in, something like that? If you haven't reached that level of stature yet, it would be, what things are you great at? What are your superpowers that you know about you that other people may not? If you know what your superpowers are and you can communicate them, they can sound extremely powerful to someone, because you're like, holy hell, there was a lot of conviction behind that. Like, I want to know more about how they see this fitting into this kind of implementation. And then the other one that I would say that you could bring up in a scenario like that is past history, whether it's a win or an up level that you had at a company, or it's something that you think the current company that you're with should do, and you can preface it with, I'm looking to lead my company in doing X, right? You can get away with something like that. And I use get away meaning because you're not claiming that anything has happened yet, but you're announcing that you're looking to lead. You didn't say I've been tasked with leading. You
Right.
say I'm looking to lead my company into X.
Or like suggesting a solution that they haven't, or like
Exactly.
fixing something, right? You're like, oh, well, one area that Yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna take those, and I'm thankful that we're recording this so I could keep make myself a short list. So next time I get asked, I'll be like, okay, so here are the things I'm gonna say, because I
Plant,
always get stuck, tongue tied. You know, you're like, what am I gonna say?
planting powerful persuasion.
I like, okay, planting, powerful, persuasion. Those are three P's. I'm just gonna
Yep.
remember that. Like
Yep.
it, like it, like it. So, I mean, let's bring you back to my original question: is what inspired this path?
The short answer is I've been doing it all my life. I was always the person that was the center of attention because I wanted to be, but also because I wanted to be able to do things with that attention, meaning help other people, pick other people, influence other people. And I was in marketing and advertising for 13 and a half years. And through a job transition, I had already had my first two clients coaching, and I just said, well, my 14 to 16 month plan is now like a today plan, and I just went after it. And it wouldn't have been, 10 hours into my first day as that being my job that I said to myself, like, I'm never going to do anything else, because this is me and all of my superpowers. I'm doing something I love, and I'm able to attract the kind of people that I want to work with. And in working with me, they up level, they win more, they do more.
Well, you help people. I mean, I think, for the longest time, it's interesting. There's life coaches, there's business coaches, there's leadership coaches, there's like a coach for everything these days, like sports coaches, there's also therapy, right? And
Mhm.
I have been seeing, I've had mentors and coaches and therapists for, oh gosh, like 20 years. And I have to say, each one has really helped me understand myself better, my life better, and then where there are places to grow, right? Like
Right.
it's interesting. It's exciting to see so many come. I mean, my Instagram feed. I once a little while ago, I did this hack. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hack my life. I'm gonna hack my social media and have positive messages and affirmations and like tips come at me. And now I'm like following way more people than people are following me. And it's all self-help. And at a certain point, I'm like, okay, it's a little much. But I mean,
Right.
it's kind of interesting. I tell people all the time, if you're in a, slump of some sort, even like right now, a pandemic, it doesn't hurt to follow a few like motivational speakers, right? Because they always up level you. There's no down level to that.
Right. It's finding whatever is your law of attraction for positivity or motivation or strength or confidence. Interject more of it into your life, whether that's through your social channels or the people you surround yourself with or the people that you ask to coffees. Like, be intentional with your time.
I I like being intentional as a key message because yeah, I think I just saw recently someone was like, you value money spent, but then you also don't value your time, and then time is actually money, right? Like the two go hand in hand. And so that leads me to wondering, why do you think accountability and leadership are so important today?
I think accountability and leadership are important today because people have a better understanding of what they need to do and why they need to do it. And I think that distractions are at an all-time high. So having someone that can be your home base for things when it comes to those, whether it's core values, core competencies, core goals, is really, really impactful, because it's almost like redundancy in systems so that you don't fail. It's having that person that is there. The analogy that I like to use is you're the sun of your solar system, and all of these planets, bad things happen to if the sun dies or something bad happens to the sun, right? Well, it's the sun's job to shine on all of these planets. Well, whose job is it to work on the sun? And the reason of having accountability and leadership coach is that their sole focus is the sun in that equation. And from a corporate perspective, I think it's really important that you're doing things both for your teams at the team level, but also at the executive level, because they have the most influence, power, and control over what happens to the teams, to all of those people. So it's two sides of the same coin, but both sides are important.
Well, I like that you touched on that, because management in the way that it's been going in the severely vertical hierarchy can sometimes be either very positive. You get a great manager or a great boss or a great peer, and they're always supportive and collaborative and helping each other out and, like, giving each other opportunities for leading. And leadership is more, I love, lately I've just been kind of thinking a lot about, management, good management versus bad management. Bad management, I mean, it's everywhere, but you could have somebody feeling scarce and competing and sometimes taking away power, right? And good leadership would empower, right? And get people in the same room together to work together, collaborate. And it's interesting. And I think it's exciting time to see people think about for me, why I started GAGE. It's like, I really want to hone in on how can we all support each other and how does meaningful innovation happen. And I think it comes down to the soul, like you said, the sun, right? Like, it has to be mind, body, heart, soul wellness, and the sun is vibrant and shining and feeling good and supported and like vibrant, right?
Yeah,
And then
no,
you can shine
absolutely.
and share that light. Whereas when you're in a downward spiral and you're feeling down in your luck, or you're sad, or you're not getting positive messages and you're just getting negativity all around you, you shrink, you contract, you are not shining as brightly, and you can't share that light because it can't even come from you, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that we've modified the corporate hierarchy structure enough to catch up with the times. And here's what I mean by that. Managers usually have been in the business the longest. They've achieved the most. They've had the most years experience in XYZ. But how many of those years of experience do they have in managing people? Or how much continued education do they have in managing people? Or are they even a personality type that can manage people, right? Like, I think too often it's like, no, you're a junior, then you're a mid-level, then you're a senior level, then you're a director, then you're a VP. Like, well, what if that person was never wired to be a manager, but now they're in a position of managerial power, and that is downward poorly effective of the entire team, because the lead source, or that sun for that team, isn't a very good one.
Well, I think it's interesting too. It's like, what makes a good son, or what makes a good leader, right? Like, we need to redefine, and I think that's for another show. We could talk about it at another time, but I think that's something, let's put that on benchmark somewhere to write about it, and also just do a show about it, have you back on, and really explore what makes a good leader, right? Like, I think it's interesting on a high level. It is interesting to change the difference between defining what a leader is and defining what is a high performer, right? Like, imagine someone's a really great engineer, really great project manager. Is that person also a really great people manager? And then where and how can we actually also have those people learn better relating skills, right? Like, better relating all together, communicating well, managing our emotions, being able to convey, like, when collaboration is supposed to be happening and not bringing frustrations to the table. I mean, there's so much that can be done around the work of, hey, how can we all work better together as a team, right? How can we be partners? And I think a lot of times in the corporate environment, there's also a lot of hidden competition to, like, one up each other, which is so not good in a company when you should be on the same team.
Not good at all. I think that leadership training and leadership coaching is due for an overhaul. And I happen to know someone who is extremely qualified and who is stepping into that light right now for herself. That's going to change a lot.
Oh, thanks. Right. I'm working on it. Maybe but coming soon to you. Might have some workshops. Brian's making me talk about it, but yeah, maybe I would love to see where we can. I'm trying to build a workshop and program for, helping teams be healthier and be
Mhm.
real partners together, right? And lead with love, like respect, trust, understanding, care, and responsibility. Because we're all actually, it's funny. Someone recently asked me, why do I have to care how I come across to others? And you're like, well, because it's kind of our responsibility if we accidentally injure somebody's feelings, or how we make an impact on any room that we're in, right? Or any dialogue. And that's, I think, part of the big deal of being a good team player and being a good adult or a good person is, can we also take into accountability other people's feelings, right? Or are we adding to the environment and the space and the dialogue, or are we taking away? Are we adding some negativity? Are we leaving the room refreshed or like really miserable? Like,
Yeah, that's super high value, both on like an empathy and an energy level. So that's why I kind of backed you into a corner to talk about it a little bit, because I think it's needed. I think it's absolutely needed.
I appreciate. Well, full disclosure, Ryan is also, we're helping each other out with peer support, peer coaching, and so it's interesting. We're working together, and you're going to see Ryan on the show more often. We have a regular show that's going to be ongoing, and I do want to say thank you to Ryan for helping me recover and like kind of really. You and Angus Nelson recently we had this chat, and old friends of mine, both of you, and I really appreciate it. Finally, we're like, just create something again. And I'm like, no, I have
Yeah.
severe fear around
The world needs to hear
something.
more of Tina.
So thanks for helping me own my voice again and find it, locate it, just start talking again, which it feels good. Like here we are. Hopefully it's okay,
Mhm.
and helping me understand where I could be of help and service to others too, right? And I
Yep.
think that's what it is. It's how can we help and optimize the world, basically. Not,
Yep.
and then it is kind of interesting. Like, why do you think so many people are going to this path to pursue helping others?
I think because at some level the connectivity has reached to a point where it makes it easier to do, right? Like it was happening pre-pandemic already, but post-pandemic and more people not returning to in-office roles means the ability to impact others in positive ways digitally happens at an even faster rate of return and opportunity. So I think that's part of the factor. I think people, I think the internet or the digital economy has allowed people to generate or create business at a faster clip in smaller areas than maybe the early 2000s even, right? So I think that's a really big factor and an indicator. I think the third part that I would say is impacting more people going to this is copycat, right? You see someone else doing it and you're like, wait, I can do that. So it's like you wanted to be like Mike and play basketball because you saw Michael Jordan, jumping through the air and dunking a basketball. Nike did the entire Be Like Mike campaign. Well, you see someone get to a level of success that isn't Michael Jordan in basketball, but in a coaching arena, and you're like, well, I can do that. I have those skill sets, or maybe I should try that. And it's something that a lot of people are doing as an additional business to whatever their main 9 to 5 is too. So I think that there is aspects of coaching that people can do in a part-time capacity.
Well, I kind of love that maybe it's also like you said, you started off as somebody who likes to help people. I know I like to help people. I just sit here and wonder how. You guys are helping me home my house. But I think it's nice to see people who kind of have always wanted to support and be helpful to people really be stepping into that role more, right? And be like, okay, you know what, of all the things that are in my superpowers, right, or things I could
Mhm.
do, how can I improve lives? And in having people like step into that role is nice, because you see enough people taking away, right? Like, let's be honest, right now today it was a little bit hard to think about getting on the show. Today is what, November 23rd. Let's make sure 2021. And you've seen, you know, there's climate disasters, there's human disasters, there's people running people over in parades and, you know, walking into stores at 50 people taking things away, not really thinking about what's the
Right.
impact of that on jobs, what's the impact of that on somebody else's life, right? And
Hmm.
people are getting hurt and hurting each other all over the world, and it's a little difficult to kind of, you know, feel sane in moments like this where you start to wonder, where's the humanity, where's the love, where's the care? And I think more than ever it's nice to see people stepping up and saying, let's put some more positivity out there in the world, because you know, the internet can be a dark hole of
Oh,
humanity.
wow. Yeah. No, it can. And it's the other thing that a reason that I love to do what I do is that if doing something that I love and I'm great at motivates someone else to do something that they love and they're great at, even if it's not the same thing as me, that's a win. Like, that's a net positive for the world. So if I'm doing something I love and that impacts someone else to do something they love or to take a chance on themselves, net win. That's a net
Yes,
positive win.
all hands on deck. Let's all help each other out. I mean, there's more than enough problems to solve and
Yep.
more than enough mouths to feed and more of us that need to win. Then, you know, we don't actually need people helping each other lose, you know. People
Yeah.
hacking people, I'm like, come on. It's actually kind of inconvenient to
No.
have to secure, you know, our
And
lives back.
it's lame. It's really lame to do stuff like that.
Well, it's kind of like the need for control and power. This is what I've been kind of reading on the last couple of days is why do bullies bully, right? And you realize there's a lot of fear or insecurity. And I mean, imagine a world where people are secure and people feel good and people help each other out. And there isn't a need for bullying and there isn't a need for taking, but rather just sharing more of the good and abundant things in life, right? Not to be a
Mhm.
hippie about it, but I'm all about improving the world. And, you know, I'm excited about it. I mean, it is, to your point, it is kind of crazy. It's like CNBC was saying 4.3 million workers left the workforce this August alone. It's just staggering. And then for me, it's a big wake up call. I think people should tap into that and realize, hey, the way you've been running the world, the way people have been struggling in their lives and then going to work and then meeting more people struggling in their lives, it's just an inefficient process and system and way of being, right? Like, what if everybody was going to work and they're fully optimized, they're working out, they're healthy, they're eating well, they're taking care of their families, they're able to have the me time? Why are we overworked to this degree of insanity almost, right? And
Yeah.
people want to quit. Like, it is hard. Sometimes you go to a store or a restaurant or anywhere and you're like watching people be kind of, they're hurting. Hurt people. So they're
Hmm.
hurting and they're hurting people. And then you're seeing them, then it's like a trickle effect of negative dominoes, right? Like,
Right.
it's hard to kind of imagine what we'll do if we keep having humanity operate from this place of like stress and tired exhaustion and anger. And just, if you're beat up at home, you're going to take that out to the world, right?
Yeah. Mental health is a real thing. It's a real thing that we should invest more resources, asset, time, and management level things into, not less.
I agree. You know, half the time Brian and I have spent a lot of time talking on the phone, basically weekly about how we feel passionate about this. Like tide needs to turn, right? It's
Yep.
just the shift is here. It's exciting. Like, what does leadership mean to all of us? What would better, healthier living and leadership mean for everybody? And I guess that brings me to a question is, what does leadership mean to you, Ryan?
Leadership to me means doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I understand I'm stealing from Jesus when I do that, but the point being, your intent is good. Your intent is for not self gain, but the gain of others, and or just the gain of what's right. So leadership looks like, feels like, smells like to me someone that's leading from a place of empathy, passion, knowledge, determination, success, and is a rising tide raises all ships kind of scenario. So if I can, no scenario is 100%. No leadership is going to be 100%. No leader is going to be able to make everyone their optimal self. There are going to be bad eggs. There are going to be people that don't get on board and all of that. But if you can raise what is mean the middle, if you can raise the mean or the average, you're able to improve things. That improves mental health. That improves corporate responsibility. That improves profits. That improves like employee happiness. Like if you raise the average, it improves the things that investors or stockholders care about, which is like revenue, but it also increases all of the other things too.
I agree. It's funny when you look at even just say some solution like solar power, right? And then you realize solar is actually an interesting investment to make. Just taking a tangent, right? If everybody was to
Right.
think about sustainability, even from just like totally just productized way, investing in solar eventually allows you to cut costs and then also increases the ROI, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the return on investment comes out, everybody makes more money. And so it's really interesting, even with human capital, it's like if you invest in having everybody come together and finding better ways to efficiently work together and be a good person, then be a good team player, and everyone cares. I'm very big on the caring aspect. It's like if enough people come to work because they care about doing a good job, right? Just do your own job well, do the best you can. And then
Mm-hmm.
given a choice, we just go, hey, what is in everyone's best interest? What is the right choice here, right? Like sometimes people are like, what's the right choice? What if you don't know? And I'm like, well, what would benefit everybody the best, right? Given
Mm-hmm.
this, just think about it. And then you'll be able to do the things that make everybody's life better in even just your sphere of influence, right? Just even if
Right.
it's one person, they can go on and do it, pass it forward. So it's kind of, I know I'm excited. It's really, we could talk forever about this. I'm trying to stay on focus because yeah, we have talked hours about this.
Right.
But yeah, and then I mean, so as a leader, you're a leader. You have to be a leader to coach people, right? Like, how do you stay accountable and lead well in today's insane environment? And how do you stay on top of your own practice?
So it's interesting. I get a lot of leadership feedback and growth through what I do with the people that I coach, because it is that closed circle, closed loop effect that gives me a lot of the feedback, response, growth, nourishment that I need. I also have mentors who I will reach out to for specific things that I know that they are good at, or that they can help directly impact for me. And there is looking into what programs can you do that improve coaching aspects and certifications and just your tool belt of coaching methods and terminology and strategies. It's keeping an open mind that you may have your own way of doing things, but that doesn't mean that you can't download other information from other people and see if there is something that you can modify into what you're doing that improves what you're doing for your coaching clients.
It's always good to, yeah, stay open-minded, right? You don't know
Right.
everything.
No.
Oh, of course, if anyone says they know everything, you should probably walk the other way.
Yeah.
Unless they're
No.
like an encyclopedia writer, but even then, you know.
Yeah, no. If they say that, run for the hills.
So is there any advice that you would share with anyone who wants coaching or wants to become a coach? I guess they're two different sides of the coin, but
right. If they want coaching, the thing that I would tell someone to self-evaluate first is, what is your why? Why do you think you need coaching? Is it you don't want to do the work and you want someone else to do it for you? Because then coaching is not going to change anything for you. You're just going to waste money. Is it that you have a project that you need to tackle that you just can't seem to? Is it because you're wanting to improve in some area and you need someone that's going to, get in your ass if that's what you need? Is it because you're wanting to do something like expand a personal brand and you have ideas, but you can't seem to figure out the puzzle? An analogy that I like to use is, if you have the puzzle in front of you, but you don't know how to dump it over and then organize all the puzzle pieces because you put the corners on the outside, or you put the outside down first because those edges look different, and there's a big red balloon, so you put all of those pieces together because it would be easier to put. If you can't, even though you're supposed to dump it over and do that, if you can't, that might be an opportunity to look for some coaching, because you've identified what you don't know how to do and you need help with. If you're on the other side of the coin and you think that, hey, coaching might be something that I could do, I'm going to ask you the same question. What's your why? Why do you want to do it? Is it because you think you can start charging $1,000 a month and XYZ? Because I'm going to tell you very point blank bluntly, it's not going to work out like that for you, because the kind of people that can pay something like that aren't going to see in you what they need in order to validate paying for something like that. Is it because you have an area of expertise or a superpower that you want to monetize and share to help other people because you know that they're looking for something like that? That would be the scenario that I would start to go down the path of, okay, what does being a coach look like?
Well, I guess I should share my experience. Every time that I have, first I was recommended a coach. Let's be honest. There's points in your life where somebody would say, hey, maybe having someone else to talk to that's not involved will be helpful. And it was, gives you a lot of clarity. And then there are oftentimes points of your life where you're like just stuck.
Yep.
You're really sad, or you're really confused, or the way I was. I'm glad that I talked to you guys. Actually, I was seeing a few coaches, and I think they were sort of super helpful in terms of certain things I was figuring out on my own personally. And then I didn't realize I actually just needed a professional coach or peer support, because sometimes you just need your friends to be like, hey, just start doing it.
Yep.
Perfection is the enemy. Perfection is the enemy of progress, right? And and I don't know, for a little while I was like, I had GAGE. I've been running the Facebook page for years, right? 2017 is when I pivoted, and I just kept on sharing other people's work. And finally, it took you and a bunch of other friends to be like, Tina, what else are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I know what I kind of want to do, but I'm just sort of scared to push the buttons. And you're like, no, just start with one show. Start with one piece of, I'm starting to write a blog again, and I'm building a platform now and a hub, and I'm feeling really excited to be in creation again. So I have all of you to thank. And sometimes you just need a friend to be like, you can do this, just do it.
Yeah,
Or a coach.
everyone deserves to have someone in their life, a friend, a coach, a peer who is relentless in the why for the other person. And for me, that's for someone in my life that for 13 years, I've considered Tina to be one of the most just
No.
home run humans there is. And when we like deeply reconnected again, it was a no-brainer for me, for her, that she should be doing more around this, because your level of understanding of all of the pieces in play, and your track record of success, and just your compassion for how you communicate things was like, no, I'm making it a personal mission of mine to pour into you that you should be doing this, because the world deserves you at your best.
Thank you. I mean, we're lucky. I think sometimes we're able to see our friends a little bit better than they're able to see themselves.
Right. Absolutely.
like, yeah. Oh, I mean, we were covering Bitcoin for a long time, and I'm like, yeah, but I really care about meaningful innovation. And I thought everyone just thought I was nuts. And then now, of course, it's like, no, actually, we have to actually consider people caring about what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just it, is can we get more people to care a little bit about, pay attention to what is it that we're creating, why, who's it for, how can we do things with best practices in mind? And
Right.
I appreciate it. It's, and you're very good at what you do, is keeping, I mean, Ryan sends a lot of nudges. This guy, yeah, I'm gonna let you talk about where they could connect with you to work with you. But I will just say, Ryan will get you to be accountable. He's like bugging me all the time. Have you done this? I'm on Twitter. I'm like, oh wow, I have a million to-dos now. So,
Yep.
thank you for you're the best of what you do, which is optimizing, and helping people believe in themselves is such a gift. It's important, because sometimes I don't think, it's funny. I was thinking the other day about the road of entrepreneurship, having been through it once, and
Right.
the toll. There really is a price to entrepreneurship. It is
Absolutely.
a toll. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of time. You have to keep getting up, even though everything seems to be going wrong half the time. And there's a million things you have to, pay attention to. There's details. And then sometimes, I mean, it's hard over the years. Some friends have been like, oh, I feel like you haven't really been a friend. And then you have to have a moment, be like, kind of was hard to start a business and maintain work-life balance, and I will work on trying to do that more. And it's interesting, because I think when you look at media, you just see, wow, these people are killing it, right? They're awesome. Right. They don't need friends. They're fine. They're just, they know exactly what they're doing. They have their shit together. And then the reality is, support is so necessary. And it's a super lonely, hard world to be in, because it's mostly you and your thoughts all day long.
Yeah.
And you Tina, don't do well, it's actually your fault, because you didn't get to the laptop that day because you were feeling down, right? Like
100%. And Tina and Ryan are having a lot of personal conversations with the people that you're seeing in those stories and stuff like that. And it isn't anything like, the reality of it is, they don't put that in the story because that's not what they want you to see. The real conversations that these people are having with their friends in private conversations are, it is not all rainbows and lollipops.
Now, there's so much with even just artists and creativity. It's a lot to everyone thinks it's hard to get out of bed. It's even hard to get out of bed and then be like, all right, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to publish. Right. Every time we hit publish, it is actually an anxiety moment of like, hopefully everyone will like this. Hopefully this will help someone. Should this even be out there? And then you get a little shy, and I just am thankful that we're building a support network. I'm excited to be building one, and then be in support network with you and other mentors and friends. It's been really good to reconnect with people who care about each other's success and each other creating things to help people.
Yeah, it's
Rewarding.
a amazing opportunity, and it's a bunch of people sharing and caring about the general win of everyone, meaning WIN win, and it's fun to be around.
That energy is contagious. That's true. I
It
mean,
absolutely
nothing
is.
beats everybody cheering each other on. Like you don't need negating friends. Who needs that?
No.
Surround yourself. Number one tip: always surround yourself around people who believe in you, who are always in your corner, going, "That's okay. Yeah, maybe that wasn't perfect, but get back up. You can do this."
Yep,
It really does make a difference. And thank you. You made a difference too, just being my friend. So, I mean,
absolutely. I'd do it
how, how,
again.
how can people learn more about you and your work?
People can learn more. You can pretty much find me on any of the social channels at Ryan Lee Cox, RyanLeeCox, and the website is coxcoaching.co.
And so, what is it that coxcoaching.co is all about? What do you help people optimize?
Right. So Cox Coaching we focus on accountability, growth, and leadership. So generally speaking, there are three type of people that I will help. It is someone who has a project. It could be a personal or professional, or it could be a personal professional goal, meaning their own brand or their own side business, or it could be inside of a company goal that they're trying to tackle this year that they need some help on the lift for. It is someone who is a business owner, a personal brand, and or both, who is looking to up level this year, meaning they know that they could be doing more, achieving more, seeing more, but they just don't really have a way to organize that and then execute on it. Or it's someone that is in a really good position in the corporate world that is wanting to add on something, meaning they have a level of success professionally that they should have a personal brand and they should be doing some consulting outside of their 9 to 5, but they have no idea what that looks like. And a lot of the times it's someone who you or I might be like, oh my God, you actually should do that. And they, like you described way earlier, have imposter syndrome of no one would buy that, no one would want me to do that. And it's kind of not only clearing the fog for them, but activating a plan for them of these are coins that are on the table in front of you right now.
Well, I think it's interesting. Sometimes the people that you grow up with, or the people that you're around, they could be like, well, why are you doing this, right? Like, why make a noise? Why can't you just go with the flow, or just get a job, stay in your job, be happy? And I will say it does make a big difference to have a coach or a mentor group or friends or support network that says, hey, I actually want you to do that thing that you've been thinking about doing.
Yeah.
Do it. What are you
Why
waiting
not?
for?
Why not?
Unless you're hurting people, don't hurt people. But
don't hurt people, but it replaced all of those whys with why nots.
exactly. So why not? And you know what, Ryan? I'm super excited because this is the first of many shows that we're going to do together. We're going to come up with a whole series of leadership and optimization type of content.
Whole series.
So here we are.
It's going to be so great that Ellen probably has us on her show before she retires.
Oh, I hope. I've always wanted to meet her. Well, I just love Ellen, and Ellen's such a good person. So,
well, we'll make sure that we at the hell out of her on every episode.
oh my gosh, you know what? You would.
Yeah, I absolutely would, and I absolutely am going to. Hey, Ellen, another show. You haven't had us on yet, but here's what it was about.
I love it. Okay, you do that, it'll keep me on the ball. See, this is what
Yep.
he does, guys. It's gonna make me be accountable and have to keep producing shows, or else
Yep.
I would probably just sit in a corner and be like, I can wait. I can skip this week.
No waiting. We're doing this.
I'm excited, and thank you for being on the show and kicking off our first program, a regular program. And just thank you for all that you do and all that you are in the world.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I'm happy that we're going to be doing a lot more of this, and I couldn't imagine a better teammate.
Thanks, Brian. Likewise.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. I hope that some of the tips were helpful and a little bit insightful. We aim to be so. Also, I'm excited about this show because we were able to touch on a few subjects like we want to in the future. So if you guys like, some content or thoughts or insights around leadership and how to be more efficient in teams or optimize your life or the people in your life in leadership, please stay tuned. We'll see you again soon.
See ya.
Bye, folks.
Bye, folks.